Hey guys, today I'm going to give you a detailed tour of the interior of my truck. This is my 2024 GMC Sierra 2500 HD, and I actually got the idea for this video from a viewer. A viewer requested a detailed tour of the interior of my truck here, and it's actually a really good idea because my truck here is an SLE trim level. That's right, an SLE, and so that means it's one step above a work truck, basically. And you know, if you think about it, most of the detailed tours on YouTube tend to be the higher trim level trucks like the Denali, the SLT, or if you're a Chevy buyer, the High Country, and so forth. And there's not as many videos on the lower trim levels, such as the SLE. And I remember when I was looking at this truck before I bought it, I kind of wasn't sure exactly what it would look like inside because there just wasn't as much content out there on this particular trim level. And so my goal in today's video is just to show you, here's what it looks like in an SLE trim level truck. And you know, after living with the truck for about 4 or 5 months, here are my thoughts on the interior. Now, before we get to the meat of the video, I just want to disclose two things up front. Yes, my truck is an SLE trim level. I wanted you to see my Windows sticker here, and I'll put a better copy up on the screen and pan around. If you need to, feel free to pause. But I wanted you to see my Windows sticker first because yes, this is an SLE. However, it's a very highly optioned SLE, and I will talk more about why I chose the SLE with all these options as opposed to getting an SLT. That would be the next step up. And then second thing I wanted to disclose is that, you know, before recording this video, I really went back and forth on whether should I, you know, pull all my personal belongings out of the truck, clean it up, make it look like it, you know, just came out of the showroom, or should I just leave it as is? And I promise I'm not trying to be lazy here, but I started thinking, you know, sometimes it's really helpful to see personal belongings in a truck, not only so you get a sense for where things might go, but also just the scale. You know, sometimes the scale doesn't translate well in a video, and so I actually left all my personal belongings, everything the way that I drive the truck, and I didn't clean it up either because I thought, well, this way you can kind of see what does it look like where dirt accumulates, you know, dust, fingerprints, that sort of thing, and kind of get an idea. And so this is probably about a month's worth since the last time that I thoroughly, you know, vacuumed and dusted on the inside. So just wanted to disclose those two things up front. All right, let's start on the driver's side here on the door card. And by the way, guys, if you didn't catch the full build video that I did when I first got the truck, I'll put a card up for that, but it basically goes over all the different options and packages, both on the outside and the inside. But today's video, it's really just all about the interior. So let's check out this driver's side door card first. We'll start up here at the top, and let me just tell you what these materials feel like. So this material right here is just slightly soft to the touch, and it's got kind of that leather embossed pattern on it. And then notice we've got a nice wood grain here. This is really impressive. You'll see throughout the video, I'm really impressed at least, that on an SLE trim level, again, just one step above a work truck, there's some really nice details throughout the truck that kind of dress it up and make it look a little bit fancier. So just like this little wood grain here, I'm actually kind of a sucker for wood grain, so I really like this here. But then it's got some more silver trim. This is not exactly like a mirror finish. It's kind of a dull matte finish. And it's got this nice little detail here, and then with the handle as well. Of course, you got the unlock and the lock buttons right there. And then all this is soft touch too. In fact, this is even softer right here for your arm to rest on. Of course, you have your window controls there. It's got the mirror controls there, and then all your window lockout, and it actually has power folding mirrors. So that's a pretty nice feature here on the SLE. Then going down, this is where it transitions from the soft touch right here down to more just the hard touch right here. And it does still have a little bit of a texture in it, but then this is all hard. We've got a nice pocket, really good size here. I got plenty of room to keep some gloves, a little tissue box here, and some sanitizer. And then here we've got our speaker grill, and I just like the way that they even went around this with that kind of silver matte trim there. And then the speaker, of course, is inside of there. So that's what the door card looks like. Let's hop over here and take a look at the driver's side seat area and everything here. What I really like about these seats, these are cloth, of course, but they've got a really nice pattern, and they've got different materials. So they've got this one material on the inside where your seat is. They've got another material here, just a different pattern, almost looks like a black denim. And then a more plain pattern on the outside of the chair. And they've got some kind of gray stitching on them. And so it just dresses it up a little bit for cloth seats. You know, I came from a Laramie trim level and a Ram, which is one of the higher trim levels with leather seats and everything. And I actually don't mind these cloth seats at all. I think they look really nice. You can see they do have a little bit of bolstering on the sides. I would say not as much as maybe some of the higher trim levels and some other trucks, but still a very nice looking seat. And then of course you got your headrest that is adjustable both up, down, and it's got a little button right there on the side to do that. So as far as the seat comfort, I'll talk a little bit about that because I get a lot of questions about, you know, are the seats comfortable? And I've definitely taken some longer trips in this truck. And for me personally, the biggest thing that I look for is an adjustable lumbar. You know, as long as I've got adjustable lumbar, I'm pretty happy. And this truck does have that right here where you can go in and out on the lumbar. And of course it is power, you know, front to back, and then the recline as well. So as far as comfort goes, I would say these are going to be kind of in the middle of the road. You know, the bolstering could be bigger. You know, the firmness of the seats, I would say they're probably a little bit more on the firmer side compared to some other seats that I've sat in. But, you know, no complaints really for this trim level. I'm very satisfied with the seats there. And I think they look pretty sharp for the seats there. Let me talk a little bit about the floor mats down here. This is one of the options included in one of the packages. And normally I'll just get the WeatherTech, you know, the aftermarket floor mats, because they do a pretty good job of covering everything. But I saw these floor mats. These are the GM, the factory OEM floor mats. What I really like about these is they actually go all the way from this side up over the hump in the middle here. So this is a continuation of that same floor mat. It's all one piece. They actually have a seam in the middle here where it kind of locks together. But this is all one piece, and so that way dust and everything doesn't kind of slip behind the mat. It's all one piece and it just kind of falls down into this section here. So I really actually like the factory mats in this case. Let me also talk about right here, this dead pedal. You do get a dead pedal in the GMC trucks, and when I first got this truck, this really stood out to me because I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'2" and 5/8 tall, and so my left foot immediately rested on here, and in my opinion, this dead pedal sticks out just a little bit proud of the gas pedal and the brake pedal. And so for me, my left foot stands out just a little bit more than I'd like it to. So I immediately noticed that when I first bought the truck. Long story short, I know I kind of made a big deal about it in some of my earlier videos, but I've gotten used to it and I really don't even think about it anymore. You know, if it was up to me, I would push that dead pedal back maybe an inch or two, but not a big deal. Well, let's look at the dash here and just go over some of the different details. First off, this is, you know, all new for 2024, and I really think that GMC did a fantastic job of upgrading their interiors. For me, this was always the complaint with the GMC trucks, is the interior just looked kind of bland. But this is all new, and I think they really did a great job, not just in varying the materials. You know, you've got this nice gloss black, kind of a piano black finish here. You've got some of that silver matte finish below, but then you've got all this is kind of almost like floating in front, and then you've got these different sections right here for the air vents. And again, this is kind of almost like floating a different section where it cuts down into here and goes all the way across the top there. This is all soft touch, by the way. It kind of has that leather pattern on it, and I just think it looks really sharp. You know, they got a lot of different materials on the dash that just make it appealing and interesting to look at. Of course, with the steering wheels, another thing I really like with the SLE is they give you a leather wrapped steering wheel. A lot of times truck brands, when you get into this trim level, one step above a work truck, they'll give you, you know, just a molded steering wheel. I know that was one complaint I had with the F250, the Super Duty series. When you go to an XLT, you just get a molded steering wheel. So I think that's really nice here in the SLE trim level. They give you that nice leather wrapped steering wheel. Then as we move from the upper dash down to the lower dash, this is where it all becomes more hard surfaces, hard plastics. And this, I don't know if you can tell in the video, it's not really a leather embossed or imprinted plastic. It's more just a slight texture. And I believe, y'all correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe even in the higher trim levels that this down here below is going to be the same in the other trucks. Again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is all hard. You know, it's not obviously as nice as the materials up here, but I don't really mind it. And I think the shape and the contour of everything kind of makes up for it if one was to find fault. But you've got all these controls here. You've got the nice electronic parking brake, of course, and your drive modes, and then your headlights and adjustments there. So that's all going to be the same regardless of what trim level you get here. But let's go ahead and hop in the truck, and I'll turn it on so you can kind of see what the animations look like here. We'll go ahead and start it up. And so normally when you first open the door, there's kind of this swooshing, moving animation all the way across the front of the screens. But then this is what it looks like once it's all booted up. So you do have a full digital dash. This is the first truck that I've owned that's had a full digital dash. Most of the cars that I've owned have, you know, a center digital portion and then an analog speedo and RPM dial. But this one's all digital. I wasn't sure that I really would like it at first. But what I will say about this is the resolution's very high. The finish on the screen is not reflective, so I don't get glare when I'm driving. And, you know, really when you look at it, especially from the driving position, you kind of forget that it's digital because they did just a really nice job laying everything out. There's kind of a silver trim piece here that breaks it up a little bit. And so so far I'm very pleased with the digital display there. But let me show you again what this wheel looks like. I just think they did a great job with it being leather wrapped, and all these controls are pretty standardized across the trim level, by the way. Of course, you've got your nice stalk here for shifting, and then when you turn it into the gear limit mode, you've got your plus and minus there. You've got your start button for the engine down here, so it is push start pretty much, I think, on all the trim levels, actually. Now, this is one of my absolute favorite features on the truck, and in my opinion, this alone could make or break this truck, at least in the SLE trim level, and that is this nice 13.4-inch infotainment screen. You know, a lot of times in lower trim level trucks, they will put a smaller screen in the truck compared to the higher trim levels. You know, maybe instead of a 13.4, it'd be an 8 or 9-inch screen with a thick bezel then that surrounds that smaller screen, and it's not as, you know, fully featured. So I really like that even here in the SLE trim level, they give you this nice big screen. It's the same one that comes even in the highest trim level, same exact software that's running on here. This is Android based, by the way. Now you're seeing Android Auto. Let me go to the actual truck infotainment system here. So this is Android based, just meaning that what's programmed and running all this behind the scenes is ultimately a variant of Android. But you can still use Apple CarPlay and, of course, Android Auto. But it's just a very smooth, fast, responsive interface. I think it's very intuitive, the way everything's laid out here. And so I think that was the right decision to go with the Android-based infotainment system. You know, you kind of got your shortcuts along this side that you can change and modify to get to things real quickly. And so I'm a huge fan of this 13.4-inch screen. Maybe I can do a more detailed video in the future, but I just think it really makes this interior look sharp. In fact, this whole center section here, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but it's kind of angled ever so slightly toward the driver for the driver position. In fact, all these controls and everything are just slightly angled instead of being flat across the front. So I really like the way they laid that out. Down below the infotainment screen, you're going to have some buttons right here, and you'll notice that I've got some blanks here off to the side, and these would be things, I imagine, if you had a diesel truck, you'd have one for a diesel exhaust brake. I'm not sure what the other one would be for, but of course, you know, all truck brands do this where you don't have an option. They just give you a blank. I will say, just pointing out, again, being honest and critical here, you can tell that there's a little bit bigger gap here and here compared to the other gaps between the buttons. So I imagine that these are maybe built in modules perhaps and kind of put together. So however they're put together, a little bit larger gap. You know, it bothered me at first when I first got the truck, but not a big deal, just pointing out to you. So some of these buttons will vary based on your trim level, but also the options, such as, you know, the hill descent control. If you don't have that off-road package, I think that's the one that it comes with, or like the lane departure warning, so forth. So just kind of keep that in mind. But again, you've got this nice wood grain down here, this nice kind of matte silver for trim down below, and I just really like the way that flows. I'm again a sucker for wood grain. I think that looks really sharp. Of course, you got your trailer brake controller, and then I have auto climate control, dual zone auto climate control, and I think they laid this all out really nicely. It's got buttons for everything, you know, even the heated seats there, just really nice. And I like the way that GM does the temperature, the set temperature right here on the knob. It's just really intuitive. Now I'll give you a wide shot so you can get the whole dash in view there, but I really like the way that GM laid all this out up here. And by the way, this layout is going to be the same on the SLT trim level, but then when you step up to an AT4 or the Denali, they actually in the GMCs give you an entirely different center dash area right here. And so it's different with vents up above, and this is all tweaked down below. But otherwise, in the SLT, the SLE models, this is going to be pretty close to the same, just different accents here. Now mine, of course, being a bench seat right here, which is one of the reasons I stuck with an SLE, because when you go up to an SLT, yes, you can get a bench seat, but by the time you start adding some of the different options, the different safety features, you forfeit that bench seat. And I have always enjoyed bench seats in trucks. I'll give you a view of this when we get over to the passenger side, but I really like the way that I have this space open right here in the middle, even if I'm not using the bench seat, the jump seat in the middle here consistently. But that being said, if you get the center flow-through console, my understanding is all this right here is going to be the same. That center flow-through console kind of marries up just below down right here. And so that's where things get a little bit different. Now, let me just point out that down here, this is all just hard plastic. It's plain. I wish there was a storage here. In my previous truck, the Ram, it was also a bench seat model like this, and it had a nice little storage drawer that kind of went in and out right here. So I kind of missed that a little bit here on this truck, but other than that, it's a pretty simple layout. Let's hop over to the passenger side next. Now, since I was just talking about that bench seat, let me continue from there here on the passenger side and give you an idea of what it actually looks like in the folded down position. So again, you got all that nice space up front in between. And then check this out. You got two nice sized cup holders. These are big enough to fit the standard Yeti tumblers. You got some little storage on both sides here. And then you have another little compartment right there. This insert and the cup holder insert comes out if you need to clean it. And then check this out. This whole thing lifts up. Of course, you got more storage inside. I've got room for a lockbox here, you know, a secure lockbox, and then even some room on top for a sunglass holder. On the lid, they actually have a little slot here for, I guess, if you want to put some business cards and maybe some other small documents up here. So that's pretty handy to have. And then let me flip it up so you can get an idea what it looks like in the up position. Of course, you have to remove anything in these compartments. Others, it'll just flop to the back. But you just lift it up and it actually does lock into position. So I cannot pull it back down unless I pull on this little strap down here to release it. So that's really nice. So that kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. It is a jump seat. So you can see it's not contoured. It's pretty much flat. It does have a little bit of padding right here. I mean, this is something for, you know, a shorter trip, probably not somewhere where an adult would want to sit for a long period of time, but it does have a 3-point seat belt for safety. So that's kind of nice. You know, some of the bench seats in trucks only have a lap belt. So that's a nice feature to have here. But really, you know, this is for when you need that 6-passenger, you know, capacity, you've got it, but it's probably not something you're going to be using every time. But then check this out. When you lift this up, there's even some more storage down here that's pretty deep. I've got some emergency, you know, things down here, and all this is felt lined, by the way, as well. And this one you can actually lock. It actually has a little keyhole down here, and so you can lock this up if you wanted to there. So again, to put this back down, you have to pull on this little tab, and that releases it, and then it drops it right back down. And that's what the center console looks like. So I'm a big fan of bench seats in trucks. I always have been, had my last truck that way, and I just really like it. So I know I'm probably in the minority there. But the passenger seat is going to be the same as far as the comfort as the driver's seat. The only thing that's a little bit different here is this is going to be all manual adjustment. And so the recline is going to be manual there. The front and back movement on the chair is going to be manual right here with this lever. And then there is no lumbar adjustment. So I would say if you go back and forth between the driver and passenger seat, this does have lumbar, but it's not adjustable. It's probably somewhere in the middle, you know, position there. So for me, I rarely have a passenger riding up here, and so passenger comfort's not super important to me. But you know, if you've got someone that's a little more picky about that passenger seat, you might need to step up to a higher trim level there to get some more adjustment. But check out the passenger dash side. You can kind of get a better idea how that center section's all angled slightly toward the driver. So I really like that, how it's kind of driver focused. But then check this out up top. This is all soft touch. And check out the details. You even got some stitching in here. Again, this is an SLE trim level. Usually you don't see things like this until you get to a higher trim level. So I really like that, how they dressed it up here. And then notice you've got some storage up here behind the infotainment screen. I don't really use this myself, but it is kind of nice that it's tucked away back there. And then you've got some storage in here. Of course, there's a little button right here. We'll push, and that opens up. So you've got some storage here. I got some walkie-talkies and emergency radio, things like that up in here. And then that folds down. This is all soft touch, nice stitching detail. And again, you've got that wood grain and that kind of matte silver trim going underneath it there. And then you do have another larger, more standard glove box down below there. You've got a decent amount of foot room down here for the passenger. In fact, I would say more foot room here in the GM compared to my previous truck, which was a Ram 3500, a 1-ton. The Ram had a lot more protruding out here on the passenger footwell, whereas here in the GM, it's just more open. And in general, I think if you measure just the doors, the cab size and everything here in the GM product, this is a much newer platform compared to the Ram platform. It's going to be longer, so you're going to have more leg room, you know, more room to sit in. Now let's take a quick look at the passenger door card here. It's going to be the same as the driver door card, except for just fewer controls buttons right here. But I mean, when you come back, I just think they did a really nice job with all the different contrasting colors, from the wood grain to that silver accent there. And then you get closer and you see the stitching again. All this is soft touch. I just think for an SLE trim level, you know, one step above a work truck, this looks really sharp. Let me talk about the sound system, since we're talking about the interior here. This is not an upgraded sound system. So on the SLE, you just get the basic sound system. It's 6 speakers here compared to the higher trim levels where you get a Bose system or even higher than that. I was a little concerned initially because the last few trucks I've owned have had a more upgraded sound system, you know, where it's got 9, 10, 11, 12 speakers and a subwoofer and whatnot. This does not. Just 6 speakers here. You've got speakers in the doors, and then you've got a tweeter up top. So I was a little concerned about that. But for me personally, most of the time I'm listening to spoken audio. And when I do listen to music, even the times I've turned it up fairly loud, I will tell you I'm not hearing distortion, which is a good thing. Sure, I don't hear that punchy bass that you get from a subwoofer, right? But I don't hear distortion, and it sounds clear and crisp, and so I'm happy with it. I'm content with the sound system that they put here in the SLE. But before we move on to the back, I'll just show you what it looks like up top here in the SLE. Of course, you've got the lights there, and you've got your rear slider control, your OnStar. It's just got a regular mirror there, an auto dimming rear view mirror. And then you do have mirrors on your visors, but you don't have any lights. Not a big deal, of course, there. You've got a decent headliner, and I don't know if you can tell on the video, but it is raised right here. So you got plenty of headroom right here. No sunroof, of course. Plenty of headroom on both sides. Now, as we move on to the back, the sun is starting to set, so I've got to be pretty quick here. You know, I try to just work these videos in when I can, but let's take a look at the rear door card here. It's going to be pretty similar to the front. You got this nice wood trim, this silver matte accent here. All this is soft touch. It's got a really nice kind of leather imprinted pattern, and then all this is soft touch as well. You've got that nice stitching detail, and then your window control, of course. And then once you get down below here, this is all soft touch, then this is where it transitions again to the hard touch surface. But it's a really sharp looking door card. You got the storage down below, little spot for a water bottle or a bottle of hand sanitizer, and then you've got that speaker that I mentioned there. Let's take a look at the actual cab though, and I'm going to pull out a light because it is getting kind of dark here, so you can see a little bit better. But this is basically what it looks like in the cab. You've got plenty of leg room. I've got the front seat up here, the passenger seat, in the position that it would be in for me. I'm 6'2" and 5/8 inches tall, and I've got plenty of leg room up front and just tons of leg room here in the back. And you can see those floor mats again. These are the OEM GM floor mats that go all the way across. You've got just a little bit of a hump there in the middle, but it's almost flat. And then you've got some air vents there down below that you can control, USB-C, USB-A, and then a little inverter outlet as well. So I really like the way that the console looks there, being that this is the bench seat model. I think they still, give you lots of storage, and then the fact that they incorporated those air vents is really nice. But I mean, just check out how big the back is here with this cab. Again, I left all my personal belongings in here, including the child seats, so you can get an idea of just how much space, even with these giant child seats in the back here, you've got tons of space there. And speaking about child seats, I'll just mention for those who don't have kids, the modern standard is to use latch anchors for kid seats. And so when you've got booster seats like this one here, this is just a booster seat for an older kid, they actually attach and secure to the truck through the latch anchors. These little anchors down here, they're little metal, basically brackets that stick out there and you clip them to. And that's how the seat is secured to the truck, so that when there's not a child in the seat, that booster seat's not sliding all over the place. Of course, when the child actually gets in the seat, they're using the seat belt to secure themselves in, and it secures both them and the seat. So I mention all this because there are latch anchors on the outboard seats, but there's not a latch anchor on this center seat right here. And so, that could be a big deal for you if you need to have 3 booster seats across, or 2 booster seats, 1 in the middle. If you don't have a latch anchor, that means you're gonna have to manually take the seat belt and fasten and secure that booster seat every time if there's not a kid riding in the middle. So I mentioned that because I think that's something GM could easily fix by just adding latch anchors for that middle seat. But let me go ahead and actually remove this booster seat right here so you can get a better idea of what the back looks like. Okay, so booster seat is removed. Let's take a look at these rear seats. You got the same pattern that I mentioned on the front there. You've got this material on the outside, nice little inset here, and then another pattern on the center section. And again, for cloth seats, I think these look really good. Now, one of my favorite features on the GM trucks is this little hidden cubby right here. On the Ram trucks, they have that nice little floorboard storage, and GM kind of has this nice storage back here. And I think this is really smart, really clever. My kids actually love it because it's like a, hidden secret compartment right here. And it actually is pretty deep. So you can put some things back in there, and it's just really easy to get to. And then, of course, you've got this center section right here. You've got 2 cup holders with some storage there in the middle, and that flips up, of course. And I'll just pull that out so you can kind of get an idea of what the seat looks like. You've got some very large headrests in the back here that are adjustable up and down. And then you've got even a smaller one here in the middle. And then up above, again, you got a cutout. So you got plenty of headroom up top there. And then you've got a nice little LED light there in the middle. Of course, you've got 3-point seat belts all the way across, even in the middle seat right there. Here's a close-up of those latch anchors that I was talking about. You just don't have them in the center. You do have curtain airbags though, which is really nice. And I just think when you pan out and look at everything, it just has a really sharp look. Different contrasting materials on the seats, different colors. You've got a lighter headliner up there, nice cutout. So again, plenty of room. I mean, you've got just massive amounts of leg room here. So really nice. Let me show you one last thing here with the storage under the seats. This is a 60/40 configuration. And so if we lift up on this smaller section, you can get an idea of what the storage looks like under the seats. So you've got this fixed storage cavity that runs all the way across to the other side, and you can see on the one side here is where they put your jack. So you don't have a whole lot of space here, but I do have enough to barely get this recovery rope and some jumper cables down in here, and that stays at least nice and out of the way so it's not sliding forward. This is fixed though, and so you can't remove this easily. At least it's just part of the truck down here. But it is nice that you got that storage down below, and the seats, of course, stay in that upper position, and then you have all this storage if you were to flip everything up and you needed to slide something in vertically there. So just a really nice large rear cab. And then last, since it is practically dark outside already, let me just show you what it looks like as far as illumination goes at night here in the SLE trim level. So basically you get these two lights up top here, which are really insanely bright. I mean, these are the only two lights in the front here, and they're casting light all the way down on the wheel here, on the seating surface, even down here in the footwell area, and then a little bit on the door card there. And that's all coming from those two lights. So there are no additional lights here in the footwell area or outside. Probably on the higher trim levels there are, but it's plenty of light to get in the truck at night. And it's the same story in the back here. They've got two really bright lights up top there, and again, they just shine all the way down and light all this up down here on the floor and even coming out on the steps there. So plenty of light. All right, well, either the sun went down sooner than it was supposed to tonight, or I just took a lot longer to record all that than I anticipated, because it got a lot darker a lot faster than I thought it would. But hopefully you got all the information that you're looking for here on the SLE trim level, the interior. I mean, I really think in summary that GM did an outstanding job of, spending money in the right places on the SLE trim level to really give you that value that we're looking for. And so I'm a big fan of the SLE trim level. I have no regrets going with this over a higher trim level truck. I just think it's a really sharp looking truck inside and out. Of course, if you got any questions on it, definitely drop me a comment below. And as always, thanks for watching.